Hey everyone, this is Olay from Laddering Your Success, and you're listening to the LYS Podcast.
All right. It's another Sunday. Laddering Your Success, free student mentoring. Come on all. What do they say? Come on. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen of all ages, we've got LYS student mentoring going on. Why do I keep saying monitoring? I don't know why I keep saying.
Maybe because we're monitoring, we're like checking the temperature of where they're at, and so maybe
that's very true.
That's what it is. You know what I'm saying?
That was really clean, man. You had that waiting at the tip right there, man.
Oh, you know what I'm saying? Off the top of the dome. That's the way I flow. Every time that Festus go. No, I'm just joking.
What you just saw there, ladies and gentlemen, is a small glimpse of one of the most underrated, unknown talents come out to SWAT, aka Southwest A-League, Texas. That is one and only Taper Draper.
The Draper, the Clay. No.
Ladies and gentlemen, the reference, but you remember fisticuffs?
Fisticuffs. What's
turn
that?
Turn my headphones up.
Oh yeah. Oh
man, shades of Dylon in the making. Who are your 5 best rappers? Dylon. Go ahead.
No, I was thinking about this as we were preparing for the day, and just in general, like that's one of the things about like enduring friendships, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Is that you get a chance to share these stories with people. And I think, as people age and as people transition from like high school to college or middle school to high school to college, and those relationships start to shake up, you know what I mean? Sometimes you miss these stories and these experiences that you share with people over time.
Oh man.
And especially you start to move into your career, and now you got, it's funny, I seen a meme the other day where they was talking about like, when you're in your 30s, friendships are like, hey, what date do you have available? 12, 16, 42. Okay, then we'll meet at this day at this time, because you can't just be like how you was chilling, and it's funny because, with Lawal's birthday just passed, and I was thinking like, there was this time, we was playing Madden so hard. We was like Madden heads. And so there was this, we and him was playing Madden, and grandma was like, Daddy. And then here goes Dar, like, Grandma, can't you see I have a life? And it was like, oh, like, you know what I mean? Like, dude, Nigerian house get you slapped, you know what I mean? And then it's like, yeah, your life was Madden, you know what I mean? And now it's like adults, and you got kids, and especially for like young people, where it's like, you're transitioning into adulthood, and then it's like, dang, but how do you really do this thing? You know what I mean? And so I think that's the just going reminiscing. But what are we talking about today, Olay? What are we talking about?
Before we get there, man, you bring up a really good point, man, because man, I feel like the kids to these days, the good old days, see how we can just look back and reminisce. I feel like for today's kids, they're not creating those good old day moments, or they're just a little different because our kids are losing their innocence so much earlier.
Yeah.
And so there's this very nostalgic feeling that I have. Even every time when I walk into a school, when I go back to LSIC, when I go back to, middle schools and stuff, it just takes you back there. And it's a very peaceful, happy, innocent moment or moments. And I feel like these kids are not really getting those moments, because what I've realized now is it kind of was like that for us, but we were kind of more like in the moment, like we kind of enjoyed where we were. But the elementary school kids want to be like middle schoolers. The middle schooler kids want to be like high schoolers. The high schoolers want to be adults.
Yeah.
And it was like that for us, but we weren't trying to force the hand. To do that. They're forcing the hand. They're literally getting it. And you can see it manifest itself into the physical when you look at these kids.
Like, can you give a little bit more description on that? Like,
absolutely. Freshmen in high school look like 21-year-olds.
Oh yeah.
Manifesting itself into the physical, right? This need, this feeling to want to be and act older, when in all honesty, you don't have you're trying to deal with things that are above your pay grade. That's what I like to say.
Mm-hmm.
You're still at level 1. You're trying to deal with level 7, level 8 type of, dynamics and situations. And because of that, like, you're just putting your body in this really, flux state because you're trying to deal with things that are above your level instead of just enjoying the moment, enjoying the fact that you don't have bills. Things like student loan debt are not in your vocabulary. You're not dealing with things like, I don't know, inflammation. Just
my knees and my back. Oh, is that my neck and my back?
My neck and my back.
For Friday.
You see these young people. I saw my brother's 24, and he was running down the street. We went to Post Houston. He was running down the street, and I told my younger brother, I put my arm around him. I said, I remember when my ligaments were that fresh and spry.
Yeah.
Bounce.
You got that bounce. Yeah.
Look at that bounce. Look at that form. Look at him. I'm only 35. All right, trust me. When I walk into school, you be like, man, is he 45? What's going on? He got that lip. You're like, what's going on? I don't know. It's information.
Yeah, it's real. It's real.
So you just hope that they kind of figure that out and they get it. But that's kind of why we're here, right? That's what we do.
Yeah.
Oh, Festus, so I had to talk about that. But to get back to what you were talking about, what we're talking about today, we're going to be talking about culture. But before we do that, I want to quickly go over different ways that you can follow us. On Instagram, LYS Students, _LYS for Instagram. Facebook, just type in Laddering Your Success on Facebook. You can find us there. Laddering Your Success, type it in on YouTube. You can find us on YouTube, Laddering Your Success. And lastly, TikTok, LYS Be No Do. LYS Be No Do. All right. So last week, as I said, we talked about influences. We talked about influences, and we talked about conflict resolution. That's what we talked about the week prior to that. Let's go over that real quickly. And so, yeah, we had some really good conversations on that. And I think it's definitely very pertinent. Like, who do you allow to influence you? Don't forget about the website, www.ladderingyoursuccess.com. Conflict resolution. Folks, I'm telling you, this is like the 3rd week I think I've said this in a row. There are adults who still cannot use this. If you can get this right now, right, this is going to help you big time. It's one of those things where, got to keep saying it. People are going to think you're weird. People are going to be like, why is he talking to me like that? Why is she talking to me like that? What's that about? Right? But what you're doing is you're practicing maturity. You're practicing how to grow. You're practicing how to become more mature, how to handle more, right? How do you do that? You talk about what you're willing to lose or gain in a certain situation. You identify the problem. You identify why whatever is happening is making you upset. You create 2 to 4 options for resolving the conflict based on step 1. Arrange the time and the place to discuss the matter and tell them why you are meeting. All right. Talked about influence, the ability to affect someone's way of thinking. And then we got those 2 signs there. Are you a positive influence? Are you negative? Or are you a negative influence? Right. We had some questions that we talked about there. Had our key principle. You learn a person by the type of questions that they ask. And then we had some advice, right? Looking for healthy role models. Think, are you making up your mind, or is someone making up your mind for me, right? And if you want to go back and take a look at that, just take a look at our previous lessons there, and you can find more information on that. All right, so for this week, we're going to be getting into some culture. Oops. All right, this is going to go really fast, but don't worry. Just ignore it. All right, there we go. Culture. We're talking about culture this week. So
why would you say culture is important? Like, why is that even a topic of discussion, in your opinion?
Well, first off, it's one of the 7 facets, or it's one of the 7 chapters of LYS. It's one of the things that we cover. And when you think about culture, culture covers 4 very important aspects of our lives. That is language, location, tradition, and history. And these things make up a huge part of who we are, the things that we do, understanding why we do them. It's literally one of the driving forces in human movement and interaction, right? You cannot communicate with someone unless you know language, right? Which is going to be one of the first things that we talk about. Okay. So that's what culture is. Culture is the set of learned behaviors that govern or that run a people group during a given period. So what does that mean? That means the culture that we have now may not be the culture you have 20 years from now. It was not the culture that we had 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Culture fluctuates. Culture goes up, culture goes down. One of the key components of what you need to know in order to be successful is the culture that you're living in, right? If you understand the culture, you'll be able to navigate yourself in and out of that particular place, of that culture. It doesn't matter what social circle you're in, culture is the cup that your juice kind of goes into, that's poured into. And obviously living in the city of Houston, where we are now, we know that culture can be very diverse and it has a lot of different aspects and things to it, right? And as we talked about before, there are 4 key components to culture. We got language, location, tradition, and history. But today, we're going to be primarily focused on on language. We're going to be primarily focused on language today, right? Language is the most important mark of a culture. This is because it defines who can easily be communicated with.
Talk that talk.
For sure. Let's think about it this way. I teach a bilingual class. That means, in our case, with the school I'm at, the majority or all of our students that come in my class, Spanish is their primary language. They're learning English, right? They're not as strong in English as they are in Spanish. And so there are certain things and ways that I may say, there's certain ways I may do things or say things that because of the culture, because of traditions, because of history, they may hear them as one thing. And the same goes vice versa. There may be certain things and ways that they speak or certain types of little things that they say that I may not fully understand, right?
Man,
that's because of their tradition, their history, their culture.
You're bringing up some really good points. No, you're bringing up some really good points because oftentimes we can have a culture clash that we think is a race clash, or we can have a culture clash that we think is a generation clash, right? And the thing is, those two aren't the same, right? And so I think these are some really good points you're bringing up. So please continue.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes. Actually, and I want to close this here and I want to play this TikTok here. It's pretty good. I'm going to make sure you guys can hear me because I really want y'all to hear this. Okay, I think make sure it's sharing my sound. And it gives a really good glimpse into kind of what we mean by culture. And I wanted to do it to where we can relate it to where our students can understand it. So let's watch this real quick.
How's that sandwich, Kenny?
Good, bro.
Do be hitting different though, right? Do be hitting different? No low key though. I'm just trying to flex my honey mustard making skills.
So I'm not sure. I'm gonna play it one more time. It's only 15 seconds. I want to make sure.
No, that's so hilarious.
How's that sandwich, Kenny?
Good, bro.
Do be hitting different though, right? Do be hitting different? No low key though. I'm just trying to flex my honey mustard making skills. How's that sandwich, Kenny?
That's hilarious, man. That's hilarious.
So I just wanted to put that there. There is a moment, and that's beautiful. I believe that's the mom and the son. And there's a moment where while he's eating that sandwich, and the mom goes, "Oh, it do be hitting different though, right?" She's now like entering his world, right?
Yeah.
Of something we're gonna be talking about a little bit later on called slang, right? That's slang, and it's almost like, dude, this is why I love language. I just thought about this right now. The last 4 letters of slang are L-A-N-G, what are the first 4 letters of language. And it's in the S. It's almost means like slanted language or something like that.
Wow.
I don't know, but that's, it's crazy how language works. But either way, she says that to him.
That's dope. Slanted language. No, I was like slanted language. I was like, yeah, I never thought about that.
Right? It's crazy.
Yeah, because the thing is, SLA or SLAN is also, you just add the T, that's slant. So
Slant, right?
so
Exactly.
okay.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, that's dope. Okay, go ahead.
So if you notice, there's a part where she goes, nah, it do be hitting different though. Nah. And then she just goes in and he's just like, what is she doing? Yes, if anyone his age would have said that, he would have been like, okay, I can vibe with this. But the fact that it was like someone outside of his normal group of people who speak that language, it's kind of like, oh, what's going on here? There is an awesome YouTube channel of this young white man, and he goes to different countries. He's spoken Yoruba.
Is he the dude with the like reddish hair?
I believe so.
Okay, I'll be watching him too. Yeah,
he goes Asia, everywhere,
and he be going on the low too. Yeah, he be going on the cheap.
Exactly, very unassuming.
Yeah,
and he kind of puts me to shame because I've been trying to learn Yoruba for so long, but every time I try to learn Yoruba, the way they speak to me, it makes it makes me not want to learn. What are you saying? You know what? I'm not saying anything. I'm speaking English from now on. No one yells at me when I speak English.
Yeah.
But just to see that, right? If he doesn't know that language, he can't really, it's going to be hard for him to buy food, to be able to survive. But he's able to go into different cultures, and the first thing that he does is he understands the language. That's because language is the most important sort of definer of a culture, right? The ability to speak and communicate, within a different culture.
That's
right?
huge.
Within a culture.
Huge.
Absolutely. So I just love that he had that there. That was great. Oh, here we go. We're on culture. So yes, we're going to be talking about language, right? Language. And so kind of like he did there, I just put a couple words here that are very, that I hear a lot. I'm not even sure if these are current, but within the last year or two, I'll say these are current. Words like drip, I've heard that. Hits different. You saw the mother use that in TikTok. It do be hitting different though. Yeet, I've heard yeet. Yeet's actually been around for a while. I'm not even sure if they're still using yeet, but it just sounds funny to me. I just like the way it looks. Yeet, and I like to say it. And cap is very big. My students like to use that with me, and it's so funny because we hear these things a lot, Festus, right? And so as I was typing these up, I was like, what was our version of this when we were in high school? Like, if I'm not mistaken, drip is like clean, like, you know what I'm saying? Like you got a fresh fit on, like, you know what I'm saying? The clothes are nice.
Yeah, we definitely been using drip for a minute, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Because see, and this is the thing, you're talking about language and language development. And again, shout out to everybody who's watching on Facebook. Again, we're going to turn this into a podcast. So if you're listening later, you might not get some of the imagery, but just vibe with us. Okay. And so anyway, I think drip came from sauce, right? Because the thing is, it's and this is the thing I think is interesting about language. Yeah, I know you see that look on Olay's face. It's like, we used to be like, oh man, that dude got the sauce. You know what I'm saying? And then I think sauce gave rise to drip. You know what I'm saying? And again, drip is a form of what we used to say was clean, right? And it's like, man, that thing clean though. And then it came to, man, that dude got the sauce. And then I think, it was like, it was clean and maybe you got the sauce on it and now it's dripping. You know what
you got me thinking about? I can't wait 50 years from now when they do the A&E documentary on, in 2008, clean was hitting the streets. Wow. Before you know it, it changed into sauce. And that was a huge drastic change. And you see some professor at Harvard, the professor of like common slang, you know what I mean? Some dude is like, the moment the language changed from clean to sauce was a completely different, and to drip, you could see a rise in the da-da-da-da-da. I can totally see that happen like 30 years from now.
Oh yeah, most definitely, most definitely.
So we got, it hits different. Yeet, like I said, cap, I love cap. I just love it when they say it. It took me a while to figure out what was going on in class because the kids, I heard it, but I never heard it in context. So I would say things and the kids would be like, that's cap. And I'm like, there's nothing on my head. What are we talking about right now? There's nothing on my head. And then I learned about no cap, and then we kind of went from there. I feel like I'm looking like a very old man with a cane or something when I say that, but it is what it is what it is. Like, you know, that's just language. That's how language moves and maneuvers.
100%, man. 100%.
Yeah.
I think, you know, again, and this is why is this so important, especially to the young people. You know, you're leaving your city to go to college, to go to the military. You're leaving your, you know, you're even just going across town. You know what I mean? Like I know growing up, to us, you know, the North versus the South was such a big thing, right? And then you had like Swisher House, and then you had like what is this other? It was Swisher House, and who was it?
Was it SUC?
Oh yeah, Screwed Up Click, right? So you had, so these were things that were natural and normal to our city. And then this is the thing, again, for us, we listened in the Screw, you know what I'm saying, and Chopped and Screwed from the longest. We're listening to that in the 90s, and now what did they call it? Chopped and Reverb?
Yo, I don't,
something like that. I don't think they call it chop.
You just triggered me. Because that is such. I'm gonna mute myself because I'm gonna get upset.
Yeah.
Go ahead, keep on.
And so this is the huge deal, is that again, one of the big things is there are cycles and patterns even within culture. And so sometimes what can happen is you're a young person, you're trying to grow, and as you're trying to grow, sometimes you come into conflict with your counterparts. And then the thing is, you got to understand it's going to cycle back. You know what I'm saying? So if you're trying to go to college, you're trying to, you know, maybe you don't even want to go to college. You just, it's like, look, I'm sick of this college talk. I want to go in and get a certification. And why is this important? Because again, culture shifts. In the 80s, in the 70s, from what I've heard and the research that we've done, there was a lot of people who were getting certifications and becoming plumbers and welders and things like that. And then all of a sudden, the pendulum switched to college. Because why was that pendulum switch such a big deal? Because especially coming out of civil rights, they had a lot of minorities who were doing these jobs, right? Who were welders, who were plumbers, who were doing, you know, electricians and kind of Mr. or Mrs. Fix-It, whatever. And then in order to not be discriminatory, right? Because and there's a great blog on our website. Go to our website and you could read the blog about HBCUs. But in order to not be discriminatory, a lot of the schools started saying, okay, we got to start letting these minorities in. We got to let these Black folk in. And so in order to get the people in the colleges, they went down to the middle schools and the high schools and start saying, oh, college is the thing, college is the thing, college is the thing. And so now you have a shift in culture, because once you get to college, you know, and now it's prep talk and everybody's sounding white, whatever, however you want to put it, people's mentality is then shifted because the language is different. So with that being said, I'll turn it back over to you, Olay, and let you continue, because I know you got some gems you're about to drop right now.
Absolutely, man. No, man. Beautiful points there, Festus. Beautiful points, man. So let's take a quick recap on language. Language, like we said before, is the most important mark of a culture, right? Defines who can be easily communicated with, and it restricts who can be communicated with. Just like we gave the example of that young man who goes to those different places and, you know, is able to speak the languages of like just countries he's never been to. That ability, if he doesn't know that language, it will restrict, it will make it tough. He won't be able to properly communicate with those in that particular place unless they know English, right? And so not only that, kind of like what Festus was talking about, in a particular role, right? And that's what we see now. Man, that's such a beautiful point about things being cyclical, Festus, because if you understand the cycle, I mean, just think about the word like cyclical, sick. I believe I'm spelling, correct me if I'm spelling this wrong.
For those who are not online and who are listening later, Olay's trying to spell out the word, but Olay teaches math. So
I think I got it. CYCLICAL, cyclical.
I believe you're correct, sir. I believe you're correct.
You know, if you look at the word cyclical and you circle the first four letters, you got CYCL. It's almost like cycle. And I hate to be the person that's always like looking at the words and the letters, but man, I'm telling you, this is what makes language so beautiful. If you understand if you understand the concept of prefix and suffix, and you can just break down words,
And so
you may have never seen
the words.
Huh? Say it again.
It's called parsing the words. Is that what it is?
Parsing the words?
Yeah.
If you can break that down, if you've never seen a word before, but you understand prefixes and suffix, you can get a general idea of what the word is talking about. You'd be so surprised how many times that'll help you, right? And so that's part of what makes language so unique. And I think that's what helps a lot of people learn different languages.
You know, while we're on this note, because again, you're just dropping gems. While we're on this note, you know, a lot of people like, what do they mean about it restricts who can be communicated with? For those who again are first generation, or those who are in a very multicultural setting like we are here in Houston, you know, if you go into certain places and you know you're about to get got, you know you're about to get got when they switch the language up on you. When you up in, what do they call it, the la comicida, and then they switch it up on you and they be like, oh no, and you're like, nah, that's not what I ordered, man. I ordered what I ordered in English. You know they're about to switch it up on you, especially when the price goes when the price ain't what you thought it would be. So yeah, most definitely.
Look, I'm gonna give you two examples. I think one of the biggest things I've learned in the last 5 years is to not be afraid to embarrass yourself. I think a lot of people are, and I almost had this feeling where I felt like I had to be like perfect all the time. And, you know, once I realized that no one's perfect, and once I realized that it's okay to be wrong and to look like a fool, I had so much fun. I would go to the Michoacana and I'm trying to get better at my Spanish, and I try to order. And the thing is, when people speak Spanish, it's like me speaking English. Like I can talk really fast, and you can understand every time I'm trying to say like really fast. Just imagine trying to do that in Spanish, in a language you haven't heard before. So something simple, I'll order food and they'll be like, para aquí o para llevar. It's like, here to go. And you trying, and it took me so long to break that down. They would be like, para aquí o para llevar. And I'd be like, huh, what?
That's when you're supposed to bust out.
Turn into a whole music video, man.
Yeah, man.
But that's the thing. It's like, I was to a point where I was like, yo, like, slow down. Like, I was like, con permiso, like, yo no comprehendo. No, yo no comprehendo. Like, do it again. And she's like, oh, do you want to hear or do you want it to go? I'm like, okay, para aquí, okay. So, you know, once you do that, it's like getting better. You know, it gets better. And then the second example I had was the first time I got a pedicure. Now, I know the joke is like, you know, when you get there, you know, they saying bad things about you and stuff. But you know, this is my first time getting a pedicure, and I had some dogs that they were working on, and I'm pretty sure, man, they were looking at each other like, boy, he got some dogs. He's been walking a lot.
Yeah.
He's been doing a lot of manual labor. Look at it. Oh man, he's been working very hard. And I was just like, hey man, it is what it is. Like, you know what I mean? But I love those videos sometimes where they be like, they be talking about it, and then they be like, oh, you didn't know I knew what you were saying, huh? And they be like, ah. But that's the beauty of language. That's the beauty of language and culture, right? So there's two main types of formal language, right? We've got formal language and we've got informal language. If you've heard of these words before, just think about a formal event versus an informal event, right? We're gonna go just a little bit deeper into both of these.
Talk that talk, Doc. Talk that talk.
We're gonna get into formal versus formal, right? If you're going to a formal event, you probably wanna wear like a suit or a tux. You wanna present yourself very respectfully, very nice. If it's informal, it's not that you don't wanna show yourself to be respectful, but it's not as fancy, it's not as structured, you know, as formal, and that's all that is. And so as we keep talking about here, let's take a look at let's see, I think it's here. There it is, annotate. We're gonna look here, there it is. Notice the only difference between formal and informal is the N. And when I was doing research for this, I found out that when you talk about the prefix N it can mean in, or like added to, or on, or not. So in literally it could have one of three meanings. In this case, it means not. So it's formal versus not formal, right? And so that's what we're going to be getting into. The more you know. And then the little star, like NBC. Remember that? Okay. So formal means something that's done in accordance with rules of convention or etiquette. All right. So we're talking about it's got structure, it's got rules. There's a certain level of precision and respect that needs to be done with it. Right. It's suitable for or constituting an official or important situation or occasion. So you usually use this language in official, important situations or occasions, right? Or something that's officially sanctioned or recognized, right? So something that everyone knows is the proper way to do things. That's what we talk about when we talk about formal language. And like I talked about earlier, the prefix in, which means in, on, or not, right? They do tend to have different meanings, right? So it's going to be on you to kind of figure out, because sometimes you'll see a word like infuse, right? Like infused water, cucumber infused water. That means that cucumber flavor is being added into it, right? And then if you see the word informal, you understand that that means not, right? That's something that means not. So it's just going to be on you. You're going to have to use that common sense to try and understand what it's talking about. And so part of what I have here is just a quick example of the word. This is a word that is used between me and my brothers very often. I also have a student who's awesome who uses this a lot. And he uses it very similarly to the way I use it. And so the reason why I have this word here is because this word is said many different ways. And you may have an example of a word like this. This word is used in many different ways, but based off of the tone that it's used, it can mean many different things, right? So I'll give you a quick example. If one of my brothers says something that is very dumb or doesn't make a lot of sense, I'll just give it a regular, bruh, just give it a regular standard bruh. If someone does something really exciting or something, really crazy happens, I do it long and drawn out. I'll be like, bruh, right? If my parents do something, or if they do something like awkward or something, really crazy happens at the house, I'll be like, bruh. It's more muted and short. So I say all that to say that language is this really beautiful thing when you think about it, because as we go into the other facets of culture, as we get into location, traditions, and history, you'll see the similarities, right, of different things that happen in different cultures and how it affects those different facets, how language affects, how different locations have different types of languages and different types of traditions and histories, even so much to like, you break it down from like world to continent to country to state to city to region to your own home, right? To your own home. You can have different ways of speaking, and only those people will understand. And you'll see, like, I've seen plenty of videos where even like siblings have made their own language. There's certain ways that people, and sometimes, we're talking about language, things that we say, but a lot of times it could be me and my brothers, and I'm sure you can attest to this as well, Festus. Oh, yeah. Me and my brothers, whenever we have like, it's usually nowadays, it's usually during our Wednesday Bible study. Mm-hmm. Me and AK will kind of look at each other. If someone does something, we'll give each other a side. I would just be like this, we'll be like, mm-hmm. And we already know because we're thinking about the same thing. That's the beauty of language. And so I think that's one of those really cool things about that. Did you want to share something, Festus?
No, I agree with you. I think the way language develops, and again, how we use even particular words is key. And I think all of this, because I think the thing is, especially we talk about like social emotional learning and different kind of things like that. The key is not that you have to be an expert in everybody's culture, right? Or like you were saying, you don't have to like basically be perfect. It's more about just being understanding that, okay, depending on the context I'm in, depending on the room I'm in, depending on who I'm with, it's okay to change things up. And I know we're going to talk about code switching a little bit and stuff like that, but I think this is really key for students to understand, especially as you're transitioning to more professional settings, and this is where I feel like it's a catch-22 when educators try to be down to earth and then use the slang language. It's like, well, the thing is, And again, it's not so much about, oh, use proper nouns and subject predicate agreement and all this other stuff is like, this is the best way to speak. The real thing is that the real thing behind all of this is, are you being understood? Right? Because as you go into a different cultural setting, if you're not being understood and if you're not understanding, then you're going to have a lot of hardship, right? A lot of hardship. And so, and I'll use an example from personal life, you know, I got to put myself out there, is like when we first got married, you know what I'm saying? A good friend gave some advice and he was like, hey, go back to elementary, pretend you're learning the ABCs all over again, right? Don't think that just because, you know, you're with this person that y'all understand everything everybody's saying, you know. And it's just kind of funny story is when it came to my, you know, my in-laws and stuff, the way that they communicated was totally different. You know what I mean? Like my father-in-law, you know, he cool guy. He's like, but it's almost like he grunts sometimes. It's just like, and you're like, what? And everybody understood what was going on except for me. And I was like, what happened? And I used to do that all the time. Keisha, what your dad say? And it was like I just didn't get it. Well, the thing is that the family had their culture and they had their way of doing things. And again, if I wanted the relationship to work, I had to be understanding, or I had to suspend my judgment on those things for a little bit. And what I mean by suspending judgment is, and everybody, you know, this talk about judgmental, whatever, it's examination versus consequence, right? Mm. So the thing is, when I talk about suspending judgment, I mean the consequence, right? Because the thing is, we're not supposed to be running around here giving people consequences for everything, right? In some cases, if you have the appropriate authority, yes. But in other cases, no. Oftentimes, just the hardship of not being able to communicate, of not being able to get your points across or not receiving your points, that's consequence enough. Because believe this or not, young people, you go in for a job interview or you going to do a job, especially now with freelancing and all this stuff out there. And it's like a person says, I need you to do X, Y, Z. And that language is part of that career path, right? And then you say, okay. And then you come back with something other than what they ask you for because of that language. You're like, whoa, I don't like, what happened? They got so upset with me. And it's because you weren't able to execute on what was shared. And so these are the kind of things that, again, a lot of people don't have these conversations. We're trying to have these conversations with you guys, again, so we could all level up. That's the most important thing. So Olay, I'm gonna turn it back over to you, man.
Absolutely, man. So I got a pencil of a flexible pen, a picture here of a flexible pencil. And the reason why I do is because one thing you got to understand is that language is flexible. If you haven't noticed, that's kind of the theme that we've gotten here, right? Language is definitely flexible. It can change as quickly as a tweet or a post or a hashtag. This is key and important because as you begin to climb that ladder to your success, you got to know the language of your network and the language of the group that you're going to be transferring in and out of. So that's something that you got to keep in mind. As you're laddering your success, your language is going to change, right? You're going to learn new concepts. You're going to learn new words. Right. And it's one of those things that goes back to what we talked about initially is as you're laddering your success, you're going to realize you're entering a new culture, right? You're going to enter different cultures and there are different types of languages in those cultures. What we got? All right. Look, we hit it. All right, Festus. So that was our lesson on language. Remember, there's 4 facets of language. We have 4 facets of culture. We've got language, location, tradition, and history. All right. So we finished off with language today. I think I'll add one more thing next week for us to kind of like go over that in question, like a little activity to kind of go over and understand the language a little bit more. And then we're going to jump into our next topic in culture, which is going to be location. That's going to be location. That's what's going to be on the doc for next week.
Most def, man. And again, Olay, thank you for again coming, serving, the community by providing this content for those of you who are watching and for those of you who are listening. We do this because we understand that not every student gets access to high quality mentorship and counseling, right? I know a lot of people are like, man, who are these two black dudes on Facebook Live or Zoom or whatever, you know? And the thing is, you know, we have reflected on the experiences that we've had. Again, we've had some great teachers, some great mentors, some great life experiences, and we understand that not everybody gets that, right? And so that's why we're creating this content, because we want to be able to pass it along to students in a very affordable way. That's why it's FREE. So literally, the only thing you have to do is hop on YouTube. The recorded content's on YouTube, but hop on Facebook Live, hop on our Zoom call, go to Eventbrite, grab the link, okay? Hop on any of our social media pages, and you could just DM us and be like, yo, what's that link for the free mentoring, right? And we are gonna get you that link, right? Because the thing is, we want this content to go out there. We know that we can't create a great price point to help every single student, right? And we also know that sometimes when it comes to getting different types of help, a lot of people will be like, oh, well, you know, you could have wrote this book for free and you could have did this and did that. And it's like, listen, there's a cost for everything, okay? There's a cost. Look, if you see them gas prices right now, okay? You see that inflation? Joe Biden? No, I'm joking, but I'm not. But anyway, but no, there's a cost to everything, right? And so the thing is, what we're trying to do with this is we're trying to reach as many students as possible. And so we need your help in order to do that. We need you to like, we need you to share, we need you to comment, we need you to talk to your little cousin and be like, look, you need to listen to Olay and them, right? We need y'all to participate with us, okay? Because y'all know how these algorithms do, all right? So yeah, help us out and let us help a generation of students to ladder their success and take their steps towards success. So with that being said, listen, there are legitimate excuses for not going to college. There's no legitimate excuse for not getting an education. I'm Festus and Olay. He is Olayinka Sharonke. And you got anything else, Olay?
Man, have a great week. Man, just keep laddering your success. Just keep pushing. Just keep laddering. You're almost done. Got about a month left of school here.
Most def. Don't end up in summer school. Do what you got to do. Pass the midterms, exit terms, whatever you got to do to get it done. And let's get out of there. All right.
I don't know if you're talking to the students or the teachers, but yeah, go ahead.
Both. All right.
Both of them.
All right. Yeah. Be blessed. Bye.
All right. Y'all take care now.
Oh, you still there? Well, thank you so much for listening to the LYS podcast.